The dogs are ready for bed. It's just a peaceful night here. Get ready to go to bed myself. What the fuck is that? What? Oh, God! Fuck!
YouTubers who became terrifying murderers. Trey Sessler. Trey Sessler had a YouTube channel that was called Mr. Anime, and he would review anime characters and make skits. Trey was doing quite well with his channel and started to gain more and more subscribers, but this all changed on the 20th of March 2012. On this day, Trey Sessler woke up and decided to end the lives of his mother, father, and brother. There was no actual explanation to why he did this, but he was caught later that day, and he is currently serving a life sentence in prison.
Scary things caught on camera. Project Riese was the code name for a construction project of Nazi Germany. It consisted of underground tunnels in the Alp Mountains. However, none of the structures were finished. The true purpose of the project remains uncertain because no documentation describing Project Riese has ever been found. In this video, a group of explorers are scouting Project Riese when they come across another strange explorer. What do you think this was? Let me know in the comments and check out my page for part 2.
I will never fully understand the disappearance of Brandon Swanson. So Brandon had just finished up his freshman year of college out in Minnesota, and he attends a party on the evening of May 14th, 2008. He's reported to have left the party sometime around midnight and heads to his family home, which is about 30 miles away, and for an unknown reason, he takes a back road. But at some point on his drive, his car ends up in a ditch, so he calls his parents to come pick him up, but he has to give them very specific instructions because, again, he's on a back road. But by the time they get there, they can't find him anywhere, so he gets back on the phone with them, and he says he thinks he can see their car lights in the distance, so he's gonna get out, he's gonna walk to them. He stays on this call for 40 minutes just walking through the dark towards this light, and then unexpectedly interrupts himself and just yells, "Oh shit." These were the last words his parents had ever heard from him. It's believed Brandon was actually 25 miles away, and despite search efforts, he has never been found, and no one knows what it is that he saw.
Hey guys, so someone commented in one of my videos, like the bronzer highlighter I use, and I use the Milani 05 Soleil. So I'm gonna try that on, and no.
The YouTuber you know at Joe kept finding food going missing in his apartment, but he knew he wasn't eating it. He confronted his girlfriend who lives with him about it, but she claimed she wasn't eating it. So he decided to set up a video camera to catch her, but what he caught is far more terrifying.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all these on Reddit. Morgan, Anissa, and Peyton were all very good friends, and they also had a lot of love for a specific video game called Slender Man. But Morgan and Anissa took their love for this figure, Slender Man, a little too far. You see, they worshipped this man, to the point of them feeling like they needed to sacrifice their friend to Slender Man. So one day, Morgan and Anissa took their friend Peyton into the woods where they would stab her 19 times and leave her there to die. Peyton didn't die. Peyton was able to get away and contact authorities, where eventually Morgan and Anissa would be put on trial and sent to prison. Prosopagnosia is one of the scariest conditions that I could possibly think of, and it could happen to anyone. Essentially, it happens when there's enough trauma at a very specific part of the brain, and it causes you to be unable to register faces. This causes people who suffer from this condition to be unable to recognize their family, and in some cases, their own face. Now, majority of us already know what postpartum depression is. It's when a woman will give birth and then sink into a very deep depression following the birth. It's very normal and it's very sad. But do you know what postpartum psychosis is? Postpartum psychosis is a condition that happens after a woman gives birth to a child. Essentially, immediately after the birth, it will cause the woman to have an undying urge to kill the baby. I know this video got a little bit sad and darker in specific spots, but that's why.
The man in the back seat nearly killed this woman. One night, a woman was at a basketball game with her friends. After the match, she went home. As she drove out from the parking lot, she noticed a red truck following her. The truck was still following her a few minutes later. However, as she drove farther out of town, the truck was not to be gotten rid of, and every turn she made, the truck did the same thing. Things heated up even further when the truck began flashing his high beams at her, flooding her car with light. She soon drove into her driveway and jumped out of the car, screaming, "Call the police." When the cops arrived, they attempted to arrest him, but he pointed to the woman's car. "You don't want me," he said. "You want him." A man with a knife was crouched behind the driver's seat. The man in the truck was just trying to save the woman because
animals that look innocent but are dangerous. BT.1.
Most disturbing courtroom moments of all time. If you guys like these videos and want to see more, make sure you like and follow.
At 17, Michael traveled from Minnesota to Iowa to rob a store. There, he shot and killed Vicky Bowman Hall, an innocent store clerk. At this point, Michael was on a godless rampage. The teenager then went to another Iowa county, where he shot Sheila Myers, another innocent store clerk. When Michael was asked to recount what happened, he smirked and described the half-gasp and half-scream Sheila Myers made when he pulled the trigger. He confessed that it made him feel powerful. Michael showed no remorse from the arrest to the trial.
Cold-blooded murder, young man.
House that is home to an older couple and their dog. But there were several claims of supernatural things happening around here, especially of a skinwalker walking on the premises. And then miraculously, the older couple mysteriously vanished, leaving the only survivor behind to be their dog. And if you haven't been able to piece it together yet, this phenomenal story actually inspired the creation of popular kids cartoon, Courage the Cowardly Dog. You could die from hundreds of thousands of things on this earth, but a lot of people have an irrational fear of dying from a shark. But did you know, based off statistics, you're more likely to die from a vending machine than a shark? And while we're talking about it, on average, vending machines actually kill around 13 people per year. And finally, pigs are monsters. But before I get into that, you guys, make sure to go peep my bio and upvote me on famous birthdays as we continue our quest to overthrow Rihanna. A woman was feeding her pet pigs when she suffered from a seizure and passed out and then died. But the seizure didn't kill her. She would die due to blood loss after the pigs began to eat her unconscious body, which leads us into our fact that pigs will eat humans if given the opportunity with no issue. And they'll continue to eat until the only things left are your teeth and some bones. That one really freaks me out. And look, I'm sure a lot of these were hard to hear, but that's why.
To anyone who may be triggered by these topics, or anyone who is faint of heart, please keep scrolling. Serial Killers from Every U.S. State, Part 10. Georgia. The Atlanta Child Murderer. Between 1979 and 1981, Atlanta was in a state of panic. Black children in the neighborhood were being targeted and murdered one by one. It became known as the Atlanta Child Murders. It is believed that Wayne Williams, a freelance photographer, may have been responsible for the murders. Wayne is in jail for 2 other murders and has never been tried for the Atlanta Child Murders. But there is evidence that points to him, including the fact that the fibers from his home and dog were found on the victims. Some believe Williams had nothing to do with these crimes and think that the police pinned them on him because they just wanted an answer. There are some who also believe that the KKK were the real murderers of these children, but the FBI found no direct link between these groups and the murders. If Williams was in fact the Atlanta child murderer, he would be guilty of killing nearly 30 people in total.
Disturbing things caught on security cameras. This security camera footage shows a woman finishing a meal at a bar and then getting up to pay. Once she leaves, something weird happens at her table. The chair moves seemingly all on its own. The menu slides by itself, a napkin flings off the table, and finally, the plate flies violently on the ground. If you watch closely, several patrons of the bar seem to notice the commotion.
This VR headset will kill you in real life if you die in the game. Okay, so Palmer Luckey, who is the founder of Oculus, invented a new VR headset that kills you in real life if you die in the game. He said he uses 3 explosive charge modules, and they could detect when the screen flashes red at a specific frequency, making game over integration very easy on the developer. And when an appropriate game over screen is displayed, the charges fire, instantly destroying the brain of the user. This is actually insane, and it's 100% real. He also said the idea of tying your real life to your virtual avatar has always fascinated him. You instantly raise stakes to the maximum level and force people to fundamentally rethink how they interact with the virtual world. But he said he's too scared to play it himself. So who's going to get this new VR headset that kills you in real life if you die in the game?
And this is the most chilling part of this story. When he spots Aisha Degree again, he stops the car and he rolls down the window. Mind you, it's still pouring. She's got nothing over her. And he tries to get her attention, tries to flag her down because he's thinking of his own kids. He's a father of 2. And he's like, what is this kid doing out walking at 4 a.m. in the rain? So she looks at him with this kind of like wide-eyed, bewildered look. And without a second of hesitation, she turns and darts into the dark woods off of the highway. And this would mark the last person, we believe, who has ever seen Aisha Degree alive.
Legend or lie, the Elms Hotel. In the summer of 1880, a man desperately looked for aid for his sickly daughter, who was ailing from tuberculosis. When he found no hope from any doctors, he turned to the Native Americans, who told him of a natural spring which had natural healing powers. When the man dunked his daughter into the water, he was amazed to find out that she got better. The legend of this girl who was cured of tuberculosis spread like wildfire, and thus the town of Excelsior Springs, Missouri, was formed. In 1888, a few businessmen hoping to cash out on the town's newfound popularity opened the Elms Hotel. It was an immediate hit, and guests from all over the map came to see the mineral water baths that this hotel provided. Everything was going smoothly until 1897, when the hotel burned to the ground. But these owners were not ready to lose such a profitable endeavor and began to rebuild immediately. After many strange and mysterious setbacks, they finally finished the hotel in 1908, only for it to burn down again in 1909. Although no one was hurt either time, rumors spread of a curse around the land. But no curse was going to stop the almighty dollar, so these developers got together and built the hotel yet again, this time making a fireproof structure that opened in 1912. This time the hotel became a hotspot for organized crime and drew the likes of Al Capone and other prominent gangsters. Nowadays, legends of hauntings run rampant in the hotel. There is said to be a gangster who got shot during Prohibition lurking in the basement, ghostly maids approaching other staff members, making sure everything's running smoothly. And perhaps most strange of all, a distressed mother goes from floor to floor pounding on doors and begging for her child back. Is there some strange mystical properties that allow ghosts to haunt the halls of the Elms Hotel? Or is this all just a lie? Let me know what you think.
Hey, look, a pizza. You gotta let him into your house now.
Unintentionally disturbing characters from children's shows, Part 3. The giant walrus, from Pingu, was a character who appeared in one of Pingu's dreams, frightening and torturing him. Coraline's other mother, from Coraline, was the main antagonist and a demonic shape-shifting entity who lures children into another dimension for taking their soul. Radafuck, from SL Neko, was a creepy human-looking puppet and one of the hosts of the show.
To anyone who may be triggered by these topics, or anyone who's faint of heart, please keep scrolling. Serial Killers from Every U.S. State, Part 9. Christine Falling. While Florida has seen the likes of Aileen Wuornos and Ted Bundy, one unknown serial killer makes this list for her brutality alone. Christine Falling became known as the babysitter from hell when she choked and killed 5 children in the early 80s, including an 8-month-old baby. She was just 19 years old when she murdered the children. She pleaded guilty and said she killed the children she babysat just to satisfy a sudden urge to choke them, according to the New York Times. She was sentenced to life in prison and is still there to this day.
She had no idea that after a fun night out, something followed her home. This is the chilling story of the uninvited guest. For a friend's birthday, Chloe and a few of their pals decided to book a tour of a haunted home on the other side of town. Chloe didn't believe in ghosts or any of that stuff, but agreed and thought it would be a funny night out. The night of, the group met up with the ghost hunter Steve, who gave the tour. He was really quirky and was obviously a big believer in the supernatural. Steve told the group that through prior investigations, they found the original owners of the 1900s mansion tragically passed in the home, and since it seemed to be some kind of a spiritual portal. There were reportedly numerous ghosts there, some tied to the home and others that seemed to be there just to cause trouble. Chloe laughed and honestly thought the whole thing was kind of comical. They did the standard tour, turning off all the lights, and Steve placed groups in different rooms of the home, and just as she guessed, nothing happened. As she left, she made a comment to Steve saying, "Well, I guess the ghost took the night off." They all went to get dinner and drinks afterwards, and Chloe finally got back to her apartment around midnight. She got ready for bed, laid down, and couldn't have been asleep for more than 10 minutes when all of a sudden she felt the sensation that someone had sat down on the bed next to her. The bed creaked and she felt a freezing cold breeze. She immediately jumped up and turned on the light, but there was no one there. She tried to brush it off, woke up the next morning, and got ready to walk to Pilates. It was only a 10-minute walk, and she made a turn down an empty street when suddenly, coming up from behind her, she felt that freezing air again and then heard a mischievous laugh in her ear. She turned around and again, no one there. That night, she got into bed and after an hour of tossing and turning, finally fell asleep. Just a short time later, she heard the unmistakable sounds of her floorboards creaking in her hallway, as if someone was walking around out there. She froze in fear and suddenly felt that cold breeze again, and felt someone standing over her.